to me about getting married. Is that the most exciting thing going on right now? I mean, you got a great record, tour, blah, 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 but seriously, getting married, man, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with the fact that I'm getting married now is, first of all, she's the love of my life. We've known each other going on 12 years now.
Wow.
We are from the same hometown, even though we didn't meet each other until later on in life.
Seriously? Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Like, I met her when I was, she was really, really good friends with a drummer friend of mine that I was playing in a band, because I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, and so is she. And I think I met her when I was right at, like, I was about 18. And, yeah, I mean, and she's just the love of my life, man. You know, we've had our ups and downs. We split up we've been together for, of the 12 years we've known each other, we've been together for 6, and we had 1 year that we split up, and, you know, that was probably one of the worst years of my life.
Wow. And were you doing Shinedown then? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
I was on the road. It was actually, we split up right before I went on the road to tour Us and Them. And, you know, I think we were both just trying to see, you know, what else was out there.
Right.
And that was just, you know, or maybe, I think in a lot of ways it was me. It wasn't her. And I was really selfish about that. And I come to find out that there was nothing else out there, because the only thing that was on my mind ever was her. And she's just my partner, man. She's my best friend, and she's seen me go through the worst times of my life and the best times too, and she never judges me. She's never judged me. She's always been there for me, you know, whether I was right or wrong. She always stood behind me.
That's beautiful.
And yeah, we have a 7-month-old beautiful baby boy now, and it was time to do it. I asked her, and oddly enough, well, not oddly enough, but they were out on the road with me for 2 weeks. We had a separate bus with a crib and everything, and we played our
crib with a crib.
Yeah.
Rolling crib with a crib.
A rolling crib with a crib in it. Yeah, it's actually Gwen Stefani's bus.
Oh, really? Okay.
I believe so.
Okay.
And anyhow, we played our hometown. I played Knoxville on that run when she was out there with me, so I asked her to marry me in front of about 3,000 people that night. And I played at the very, very end of the show, made her wait all the way to the end.
And she said yes in front of 2,000 people?
We could probably have to edit this, but her exact words were, when I pulled her up on stage, I got down on one knee like a gentleman, and I asked her if she would be my wife, if she would marry me, and she was like shaking her head, and I was like, no, talking to the mic, tell me, I want to hear it. And she was like, and she said, hell, motherfucker, yeah. And then she stepped back, flipped, took her she was wearing sandals, threw her sandals off, and then ran and jumped on top of me right there in front of everybody. So it was really special. It was really sweet.
And it just finally moved you that it was time to get married?
Yeah, and people go, oh, it's because you had a kid. I'm like, no, it was, you know, Lyric, who is my son, you know, my whole world changed when he was born. I think the people that know me knew that I had a massive Oxycontin addiction and a massive cocaine addiction, and I've been clean now for going on 11 months. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, the birth of my son and then finding out I was going to be a father. But the moment he was born, he changed my life forever. It's really hard to describe it, or because you don't want to be like desensitized to any kind of emotion when, you know, it's the birth of your child, and you don't know what to feel at that time, because it's just beginning, you know, it's happening right before your eyes. And you hear people talk about what it's like when, you know, what it's going to be like and everything, but you're never going to experience it unless you experience it. And yeah, he came out and he was, you know, wet and bloody and gooey, and he was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And I looked into his eyes, and I realized at that very moment that it was no longer about me anymore. And my mission in my life is, you know, to take care of not only my son, but, you know, Ashley, who is the love of my life and soon to be my wife. And but to answer your question, I didn't mean to go around the question.
Very cool.
It was just time, man. You know, we've been together known each other for a long time, and I don't see myself ever with anyone else. And I mean, anyone that knows me knows that I'm very much stick to what I say I'm gonna do. I will not be this guy that's going to get married 3-4 times. I don't plan on ever being with another woman again for the rest of my life. It's just the way I was brought up, but that's just the way I am inside. I think that you get married, that's your soulmate. That's who you're supposed to be with. And some people will be like, you can't. They'll be like, Brent, you're in a rock band and you're considered a rock.
You have opportunities.
You're considered to be a rock star and all this kind of cliche mumbo jumbo. And I'm like, just because I'm a singer in a band, that's I never call this what I do my job. I've always said this is my honor because I'm honored to be able to do this. I don't consider this a job at all.
Right.
But to stay monogamous is just something that I choose to do, and I don't think you should ask someone to marry you if you're not going to stay monogamous.
I agree, dude.
So I mean, that pretty much just stops right there.
She saw you through all the drugs?
Mm-hmm. She saw me,
how did
she knew me when I was, no one. She's actually the reason I was signed, I got signed to Atlantic Records.
Really?
She handed the disc of the first band that was signed to Atlantic Records to the A&R guy, Steve Robertson, who signed that band, and then that band was eventually dropped, and then I was re-signed to a development deal, and then
here we are.
Here we are. But she saw me through all that, yeah.
Did she ever get in your face about it? Because you say, she doesn't judge you, but you know what? When you see somebody going down a destructive road, somebody who loves you's got to stand up and go, hey, man.
No, she did. I mean, when I say, she never judged me and things like that,
yeah.
She wasn't, well, you ought to, and you better, and this, and she never was like, you suck, or, you're a terrible person, or she never, came down on me. She would always just be like, she always, I think, felt like I was searching for something that I wasn't getting, and, eventually, she got in my face about it because, I almost died a few times, and, I was snorting, because I had an Oxycontin addiction on top of a cocaine addiction, and I was doing probably 400 milligrams of Oxycontin up my nose a day. Which anyone that knows anything about that drug knows that you feel like you're Superman when you're on it, but then when you have to come down off of it, it's the most excruciating come down in the world. Because it's an opiate, so it attacks your nervous system. So I basically got off a plane, checked myself into a hotel in Jacksonville, Florida for 5 days, went to the very end of the hall on the top floor. I told the managers at the hotel what I was doing. They knew what was going on. They knew who I was, and they knew the band and what have you. And I screamed and cried and sweat, and sweat like mad, and dealt through a lot of pain for 5 straight days, and then I'd finally come down off of it. Which you're not ever supposed to do that. That's like the most dangerous thing in the world you can do. You're actually supposed to check yourself in and actually detox correctly in a hospital, because I could have died. But I just had to do it my own way. I had to do it by myself, and I was one of the lucky ones that got through it.
Something has to get your attention. Do you feel like now you were searching for something?
Yeah, man, I was searching for a happiness that I didn't have, because I felt like at that time when I was going through when I had all those substance abuse problems, I wasn't happy with myself, and I was questioning things about the band, and I was having internal problems with some of the members in the band, and it was just coming to a head, and I was figuring that I could mask it and just cover it up with drugs, and you numb it and it'll go away. But there's always the next day when the drugs are out of your system and you gotta face the music, so to say.
Well, I've talked with you twice now, and neither time did I think you were blown away. Neither time, because we always talked about lyrics, because I always thought you put a lot of effort into your lyrics.
I try.
And I get, it's funny because you do it to escape, and then while you're there, you try to mask it in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, man, drugs are just, I don't know if they're evil, but they certainly can mess you up.
They can, man. I mean, there's all, people look at it all different ways. Alcohol's a drug, nicotine's a drug, aspirin's a drug.
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, it's just drugs. And I'm like, yeah, but man, when you start getting into like heroin and painkillers such as Oxycontins and
My drugs are like Big Macs and Whoppers and that. You know what I mean?
Oxycontin is synthetic heroin. It's a man-made heroin. Instead of coming off of a plant, it's actually synthetically made by man in a laboratory.
And did you see your downward spiral? Did you see how you got caught in it? I mean, when you look back, you go, okay, yeah, I tried it, and you did feel like Superman, and I want to feel like Superman again.
Yeah, definitely. That's what happened. I started taking like Vicodins and hydrocodones and really liked those, and because my knees get really, really jacked up. And I had surgery on my left knee like 9 years ago, and every once in a while it would, it act up on me because I tore my meniscus. So especially in the winter, they ache a bit, and that was my excuse for the time. They're like, well, a doctor was like, well, here, take some Vicodins, or here, take some hydrocodones. So I started getting a big prescription for those, and started taking those all the time. Well, in one night in Albuquerque, New Mexico, this guy came up to me, and he was like, I heard you like painkillers. I'm like, oh, I do. He was like, I was like, I do. And he said, well, try these. So he gave me a whole bottle full of 20 milligram Oxycontins. And I'd heard about Oxycontins before, and I'd heard you're supposed to, don't take them as a pill, snort them. So crushed them up, started doing that, and it was, I can talk forever about this, but the reality is the 20 milligrams went to the 40 milligram, went to what they call a battleship, which is an 80 milligram Oxycontin, and, 400 milligrams up my nose a day, man. It was,
You've talked a lot about your parents with me before. Did they know this was going on? Or
they probably did,
yeah, okay.
to a certain point.
Right. Because you said they've always been really supportive of what you're doing here. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You're following.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of parents would kind of go, well, hang on. At the beginning especially. So.
Right.
That's
no, they never really talked about it a lot with me, but I mean they knew that there was. I'm sure they did know that there was some. There was a difference in me from time to time because my mood swings were so like insane at that time because I was just doing a lot of stuff. So I'd be one guy 1 minute, be another guy the next.
So is that what you heard a lot then in the last 11 years, The Sound of Madness?
Yeah.
In that song, particularly?
Yeah.
Where were you going with that? I think you need a shotgun blast to kick in the ass, so paranoid, watch your back.
Yeah. Well, the thing about The Sound of Madness is it can be taken in a literal sense when you listen to it as a person that sees a friend of theirs or a family member or someone in general that they are very close and connected with, and they are watching that person repeatedly shoot themselves in the foot. That have people around them that care about them, but they choose not to acknowledge that, and they just keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And it's that moment that the individual tells that person, like, look, you know what, man, I invented this stuff. I've gone through all of these same things that you've gone through, and I'm still here. I still made it through because I asked for help, or I asked for someone to help me, open my eyes and really look at what I was doing, And the whole thing about you can sleep with a gun, but when you're going to wake up and fight, I've known a lot of people in my life that have used the fact that they said that they wish they were dead and that they have no reason to live and that they're going to commit suicide, and they just hate their life.
Not a good place to be.
No, it's not a good place to be, but it's like you can complain about it for only so long to when people eventually, it's like the boy that cried wolf.
Right on.
And I wish I could tell people that song is got a happy ending to it, but it really is up to that individual, because there's a time when you have to break off. If the person's not going to help themselves, you can't drive yourself crazy. You can't go through, your own. It's just one of those songs where you
can get sucked right down in it.
Yeah, and then if you get sucked into it, then it's then it's causing a problem with your life,
right.
And it's just about that person that you say, look, man, I get it, I understand, it's hard, that's life. Either snap out of it or don't, I guess, if you're not going to. But the song does remain as you've repeatedly tried to help this person, but they repeatedly just keep messing up.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. I'm not, I'm not Mother Teresa by